The Red Bank zoning board of adjustment come to order the 16th day of June, 2026. Time is 6:30. Roll call, please.
Ann Torrey.
Here.
Raymond Mass.
Here.
Greg Fitzgerald.
Here.
John Gilday.
Here.
Anna Cruz, absent. Vincent Light.
Here.
Paul Cagno. Eugene Harowitz.
Here.
Chris Havens. Dorothy Cerullo. Okay, she's running late.
She's here. I think she's outside on the phone.
Okay. So here, and that's it. Thank you.
In accordance with New Jersey law, this meeting notice has been published in the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times and is available on the municipal website and the New Jersey Secretary of State's website. It is also posted on the municipal bulletin board. This meeting complies with the Open Public Meetings Act and will be tape recorded. If the applicant chooses to use a court reporter to transcribe the recordings, the board requires a copy of the transcript. A break will occur around 8 p.m. in the conference room on the first floor. Public is welcome to attend, but discussions with board members will not be allowed. No new cases will be heard after 9 p.m. and the cutoff time is 9:30 p.m. Any applicants not heard will be rescheduled for the next meeting. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have an administrative matter. We have approval of the meeting minutes from June 18th. Anybody make a motion to approve those? I'll approve. I'll second.
If I was looking at the right minutes, it's for the application for 273 Shrewsbury. It said that there were no nays. Is that on the minutes? I don't have the minutes in front of me, but that was not correct because I was a nay vote on that.
That'd be Thrive, right?
Yeah. $273 Shrewsbury. Oh, that was just to carry. That wasn't for the ordinance approval? Remember they came back?
But that was not in the minutes from 6/18.
It was what?
April 16th.
Oh, that was on 4/16?
Yeah, that was April 16th that we heard Thrive.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was in, that's what I was saying. I read it somewhere on here. I wasn't sure if we were adopting those minutes, but it said.
We might have approved the resolution, maybe.
June 18th.
And just for the record, we'll note that board member Dorothy Cerullo is present.
I didn't read the minutes that carefully myself.
So Paul would not have been able to vote.
On a resolution, yes, if that's what that.
But he's not a no vote on this.
Correct.
So you're saying you voted no for the 273?
When Thrive came back, they wanted to
Yeah,
add.
that was
this.
6 to
Yeah,
and
I was-
the minutes reflect that.
It was 6 to
The
1.
minutes reflect that?
They do. The
Okay.
April minutes that we approved in May.
Well, I think,
He was.
right,
Yeah.
Right.
because he voted no.
Oh, the resolution.
On the resolution.
Yeah,
You can make comments, but not vote.
Oh, I see.
So-
Okay. All right, and then I wasn't here on the 18th, so I don't vote on, I don't approve the 18 minutes. Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think you're just okay with that. Yes or no? Who made the,
Good, and, Vincent White,
Aye.
second, and all in favor?
aye,
Any opposed? Oh. We can move on.
okay. We have new business, 195 Bridge Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, couple of preliminary procedural things. You'll recall this is a continuation from May 21st, 2026. So we have a couple of new things to add in, but first we're gonna swear in Jacqueline Derman, our board engineer, and Shauna Ebanks, planner, who's our director of community development. Jackie and Shauna, if you could just raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? All right, thank you. And we're also, board member Greg Fitzgerald, I think you were good enough to review the transcript or the tapes of the May 21st, 2026 meeting. So we're going to give you a certification to sign, but we'll mark that as B1. And on behalf of the board, I thank you for doing that because that's very important, particularly in continued hearings. Sean, is everyone else here eligible to vote?
Yes.
Okay. And then in terms of new information, I'm gonna mark as A8 is the proposed site plan provided by Robin Renaud dated June 29th, 2026. One sheet not signed or sealed. And then A9 is gonna be the revised T&M Associates Review Memorandum dated July 16th, 2026. So I think, Shauna, that's everything. We're up to date, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and you'll remember, this is Dante Alfieri. Good evening and welcome back.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Dante Alfieri on behalf of the applicant.
Is the mic on?
You hear me?
Just gotta speak in.
You hear me now?
There you go.
All right. At the last meeting, actually, my brother was here, so the older, better looking person is here tonight. Where we left off, there were some comments and questions from the board with regards to the parking arrangement and the garage in the rear. I do have the same individuals to provide testimony tonight. We do have our architect who will just touch on the changes from the plans, and we do have our planner as well to touch on the planning testimony. I do have one additional exhibit that we're going to hand out. We have a large scale version of it, which we can mark as A10. This shows the turning radius for the vehicles in the car for the cars.
All right, so turning radius for vehicles prepared by,
Yeah, it's prepared by the applicant.
okay, is there a date on it? If not, we'll put the
No date. We can date for today.
That, great. 7/16/26.
So without further ado, I'll call up our first witness, Mr. Donato.
All right, if you could just state your name again for the record.
Sure, Joseph Donato, DON-ATO.
And-
Wait.
I'm sorry. Again, Joseph Donato, DON-ATO, located at 14 Route 4 West, River Edge, New Jersey.
Want to hold that mic up? There you go.
Sure. Is that okay?
There you go.
Okay.
And for the record, you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed architect, and you were, your credentials were vetted and accepted at the May meeting, and you recognize you're still under oath, correct?
Yes,
Thank
thank you. Correct.
So Mr. Donato, if you could please run through the modifications from the previous night to tonight, what changes occurred?
Sure. Basically, the main changes were the parking area toward the back of the building. The proposed building that we proposed as a two-family, that remains the same. All setbacks coverages. It was the rear area when we left that, we wanted to show where we had additional parking, a two-car garage that would fit two cars, so it's 484 square feet. We also have elevations of those, of the garage that were submitted. So basically, what we did was, the driveway stays exactly where it is on the left side of the building, runs down toward the back. We have a gravel parking area that will house two parking areas. As you turn to the garage, to the site in toward the rear, you turn right and you have two parking spots. They have enough room. We set the garage back 23 feet from the rear property line, 6.5 feet, 6 feet 6 inches from the left side. And that allows us, the reason we pushed it further back is that we have a turnaround radius for these two cars to turn around, come back out, and plus the two cars on the inside. So we have a total of 4 off-site parking stalls.
And those
for the
4
property.
off-site parking stalls meet the RSIS standard, correct?
Correct, yes.
And what we're showing on this plan here, which is also on A10, which was handed out, shows that there are 4 designated spaces, 2 in the garage and then 2 towards the side. If you look at A10, you'll also see a 5th car showed to the side. And that's just to illustrate that there is sufficient space for guest parking. It's not a designated space. The whole purpose of that is just to show that there is the ability to house additional vehicles on site.
Right, just for reference, but we're not counting it as a stall, but there is, it's a gravelled area that has sufficient space.
And then with regards to landscaping, we're going to work with the board's professional as a condition of the approval to supplement any type of landscaping that would be needed. And we just want to confirm with your board professional as a condition as to the types of species that would be necessary.
And also, if I could just touch on some numbers, I said the proposed garage, which is 22 by 22, it is 23 feet back from the rear property line and 6 feet 6 inches from the right. But some of the reductions in square footage because of we had a driveway that continued toward the garage, but we had this. What we're proposing is an entire gravelled area. We have a reduction in square footage of 259.56 square feet. So that brings down our coverage to 2,708.44 square feet, which is a coverage of 36.12%.
I'm sorry, that's lot coverage?
Yes.
That's correct. And that complies, correct?
Correct, yes. But there was a reduction based on the previous proposal.
And Joe, you've reviewed the July 16th memo from T&M.
Yes.
Were there any comments or conditions in there that we cannot meet?
No, we will definitely, any conditions that we agree to meet.
And if there's any comments in here with regards to revisions to the plan, we can provide those as well as a condition of the approval?
Right, based on any conditions, we can update our plan with incorporating Ms. Renault's plans that were submitted tonight.
I open it up to the board.
Any board member have any questions? This witness? Okay. Any members of the public have any questions for this witness? Okay, on to your next one.
Thank you, Chairman. And with that, and our second individual is going to be Ms. Shepherd, our planner.
All right, Kristen, good evening and welcome. Just state your name and address, business address for the record.
Yes, Kristen Shepherd and 52 Reckless Place, Red Bank.
And you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed professional planner. Your credentials were vetted and accepted at the last meeting, and you recognize you are still under oath.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everybody. So last time we were before the board, there were concerns that were raised by the board regarding the parking. So our applicant went back, worked with the engineer, and provided the plans that were submitted and spoken to tonight. So based on the testimony provided, I believe that we have met the requirements of the parking, and I believe we've satisfied the board's concerns regarding the number of parking spaces as well as the site circulation and maneuverability. It's my professional opinion that the site can accommodate this additional use with the amount of parking and that site circulation that exists. Also, just to note, there's nothing changing with the application. The proposed use that's before you this evening is a modest one-unit additional dwelling incorporated into a single-family existing residential home. That residential home is not changing, it's not expanding, it's not increasing in height. It remains as a single-family home in its appearance. What is also proposed with the application was spoken to in more detail at the last meeting is there's some significant upgrades and changes to the home that are going to be made with the application. The exhibit that I put on display last time showed the existing conditions of the home in its dilapidated state. And there's significant proposed changes to enhance the curb appeal and to really bring that home back up into a much better condition than it is now. So it's my opinion that the site remains suitable for the proposed use. And of course, the 2023 master plan has some great information in there that I believe aligns directly with our proposal and the application before you this evening. I spoke a little bit about it last time, but I'd like to just put back on the record because I believe the application in its revised state, even more so, meets the goals of the master plan. So the 2023 master plan, page 95, states a goal of focusing on reinvestment in older homes as opposed to demolishing them. And then the 133 page number for the master plan suggests the board considering allowing up to 4 additional units in this zone as a conditional use. And those conditions in that master plan state that the home remain residential from its appearance and provide adequate off-site parking. All of those are being met by this application. And then also recently, the borough has adopted an ordinance, ordinance number 2026-18, that permits additional dwelling units in this zone as a conditional use. And while we're not before the board this evening with an application for an ADU or an additional dwelling unit, the fact that the board adopted this shows that the board is contemplating the support for modest residential opportunities while staying in context with the neighborhood and preserving that neighborhood character. So rather than proposing an isolated departure from the borough's planning initiatives, I believe that the proposed use is consistent with the context of the neighborhood, particularly on Bridge Avenue. It reaches the goals and provides ample support from the master plan, as well as recently adopted planning initiatives within some of the ordinances. So I believe that the application can be deemed approved, that there's no substantial detriment to public good or adverse impact to the zone plan and the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Any questions from the board?
I have some questions. What specific characteristics make this site particularly suited for two-family use, given the borough's ADU ordinance that they signed 5 weeks ago, which specifically addressed this lot, this neighborhood, this property size, this house, and now the applicant has an ADU ordinance already provides a legislative sanctioned path to a second unit. What's happening in this application, in my opinion, you've kind of cherry-picked the ADU ordinance, right? The board went back, the council went back and said, hey, let's amend this neighborhood. And your applicant wants to be an owner occupied. She submitted a letter saying she wants this to be her permanent home. Well, that's in the ordinance. You have to be owner occupied. But the ordinance is also very specific. It says no attic, and you're, instead of converting the garage to an accessory dwelling, you've decided to cram a 2 units into a single family using the attic. Well, the ordinance specifically says they don't want to do that. That's
You're
not
speaking
permitted.
about the conditional use for the ADU, correct?
I'm talking about the ordinance that was signed 5 weeks ago that says no attic for
We're not
the
before
ADU.
for an ADU though.
Right,
Just
but I'm
before for
saying
the-
you just said that it's consistent with the master plan. How is it consistent with the master plan when the council just signed an ordinance 5 weeks ago, specifically addressing this neighborhood, specifically addressing adding a second unit to a single-family house? It's
I
the
don't-
exact opposite of what the council just did 5 weeks ago.
I don't, respectfully, I don't believe that the ordinance that was signed should completely take away the master plan's goals that exist today. That master plan is active. And I think every opportunity, every site, every application has its own different criteria that needs to be looked at. And we are here from a previous case that was started before that ADU ordinance has been signed. And I do believe that with the information in front of the board tonight, a decision could be made to allow this two-family home to exist because of the reasons that I put on the record regarding the planning testimony. Regarding the ADU ordinance, that's a separate ordinance. I only referenced that to show that the borough has considered looking at alternate opportunities for residential to exist in not just this neighborhood, but other neighborhoods.
Well, it's not a separate, it covers the applicant's property. I mean, so it's an ordinance that controls the application's property, which specifically says, if you want to add a unit, this is what we want you to do. We want you to do an ADU. And what you've done, you've cherry picked. You can very easily take this property, convert the garage to an ADU, very easily, and you wouldn't need any variances. Instead, we're asked for a D variance here, and all these other things. We're going to put something in the attic. We're going to put a bathroom in the attic. We're going to do something in the basement. The council's considerate. The master plan was adopted in 2023. We spent a lot of money doing it. It was an intentional document. And now the council is going back and they're reviewing it. And this is what they decided to do 5 weeks ago with this neighborhood. So to me, to grant this after the council just reviewed this, had public comment, and did all these things is inappropriate. You have a pathway to get 2 units on this lot, and I think you should follow it. It was just decided 5 weeks ago. So I don't think there's a hardship. I don't think there's any special reason. I don't think this site is particularly situated to convert this to a two-fam when you have the opportunity and the legislative intent of our council to do an ADU. This is exactly what they were talking about. Exactly. The lot size is right. There's already a structure back there. You have a single family. She wants to live there. She submitted a letter saying she wants this to be her permanent house. All the criteria is there. So for me, I'm not convinced that we should grant a D1 here.
I would like to just note that I don't want any confusion to be placed here. We are here seeking the board's approval for a two-family. It is modest in nature. I understand that the council has elected to adopt an ordinance for proposed ADUs, not only in this zone, but in other zones within the borough. But part of an application process is when you are deemed complete, you are deemed protected from changes in zones, in ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, you can still make the application for a variance. I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying that it's not consistent with the master plan. And the only other thing is, we're also, by denying the application, we're preserving a single-family house, right? We're preserving a 3-bedroom single-family house, which is paramount in the master plan. We want to preserve single-family homes. What the proposal is to get rid of a single-family house and make a two-family house and with a garage. The ADU, and this is why the council is doing this, right? The ADU is saying, let's preserve the single-family house and let's do an ADU in the back. This is exactly what they were talking about. So I'm perplexed, quite frankly. And I understand you have every right to come and seek a variance, but it sounds to me like it's almost like a spot zonings here. You could have gone to the council meeting last month and talked to them about it, or proposed or made other changes and told them what you wanted to do. But instead, you've come to us and seeking a D1 5 weeks after they've already talked about this issue. For me, I'm not seeing enough reason to actually do it.
Talk about the spot zoning notice.
Okay, but the last point I want to make is, we just renovated and did, after all these years, the Marine Park, right? A beautiful park. It came out spectacular. We had a ceremony promoting families, promoting kids coming down and using the park. How does this application encourage families to move onto Bridge Avenue? We're removing a single-family home. How does so it's like we're inconsistent. You have the council adopting ADU to preserve a single family. We create this beautiful park to attract families and kids. Simultaneously, 5 weeks later, we have an application say, let's remove this single family, make it a 2, despite having this ordinance that just says, hey, let's do the ADUs. So for me, it's inconsistent, and that's my position.
And I understand that. Well, I'll have Ms. Shepherd talk too about your comment with regard to spot zoning. But to be clear again, this application was filed well before there was an ordinance approving or contemplating an ADU. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't want there to be any confusion that we are here after the fact
No, I understand, but you still have an opportunity to withdraw the application and build an ADU.
Understandable, but we are here presenting the application that we have before you tonight. So, Ms. Shepherd, if you could just touch on that spot zoning.
Yeah, I just wanted to address for the record, you mentioned spot zoning at the last meeting. I just want to make it clear, the definition of spot zoning is introducing an incompatible use into an area. I fully believe that the use that's being presented into this area is extremely compatible for all the reasons I put on the record. And spot zoning is a very particular definition, and I just want to make sure for the record that's clear, that I do not believe this is spot zoning.
Just, I want to go back to testimony from prior and just reconfirm. The conversation took place about, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to reconfirm there was conversation about speaking with neighbors, and neighbors that were, that discussed this were all in favor of it. Has there been any more input from neighbors, pro or con? And was I right that as of last time, the neighbors were pretty much positive?
I have my applicant here. She can come up and testify to that. If you have any questions for Ms. Shepherd, I'd like to finish her first. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a comment. I have to agree with Paul here. In your testimony, you actually quoted page 133 of the borough's master plan.
Mhm.
It is recommended that the borough consider adding residential uses of up to 4 units, et cetera. And like Paul stated, the borough council thought about this issue, and they came and they put together the ADU plan for Red Bank. So I would have to agree with Paul. I think this application fits under the ADU part much cleaner than it does the current restrictions.
Yes, I understand where you're both coming from that. The way I read it is that the ordinance that was just adopted is in lieu of the other considerations that are in that master plan. In that case, in the master plan, it mentions it as a conditional use with a couple of the conditions. I didn't read anywhere in the ordinance that, that would be really reflecting that exact part in the master plan. So in my professional opinion, I still believe that that exists as something to compare alternate opportunities for residential to.
So what you're saying is that that ADU ordinance is just supplementing what the master plan has already put.
It's an example of one of the guidelines or guidance that was given in the master plan.
That would be the question I would have, Vince, is that putting in place this ADU option, which I think is a terrific idea, prescriptive? Is it what you should do, or is it an option? You still have the option to do what they're doing, which was done, in fact, next door just recently, given a 2-family. So I think you have to really make a case that the ADU thing is prescriptive. I don't see why. Maybe it is, but I don't know about legislative intent. I don't know if that's what they intended. And there are a lot of families living. There's probably hundreds of families on the west side living in 2- and 3-family buildings. There's plenty.
Okay, any further questions for this person? Not comments, but questions.
Ray, and maybe it's a question for our attorney. Again, I'm confused about the ADU conversation because it sounds as if since this application predated that ordinance approval, essentially it doesn't apply here. So if this were a new application tonight, it would apply, but it doesn't, it doesn't here. So is there a reason this has bearing on this application?
Well, excuse me. Let me just give a little bit of a brief history of the law in this regard, and we can hear from Mr. Alfieri momentarily. So back in the day, I'm going to say maybe 15, 20 years ago, we in the state of New Jersey had a time of the application rule. And that basically said, I'm sorry, a time of the decision rule. That was the old one, the time of the decision rule. And that basically said, let's just say someone came into town and wanted to open up a fast food restaurant. And the town got wind of it, didn't like it, and adopted, right after that application was submitted, adopted an ordinance. And by the time that fast food applicant came to the board, if the time of the decision, if the rule in effect was fast foods or restaurants are not permitted, that was the rule that governed. And then it changed several years ago. I think it was under Governor Christie, and he changed it to the time of the application rule. So what that means is, under this scenario, when the application was submitted by the applicant's team, the ordinance that was in effect controls. So, Shauna, this application is clearly not governed by the ADU ordinance. It's interesting what the ADU ordinance says, and there might be some positive reasons why people like it. There might be some negative reasons why we think it's not advancing their case. And just so you know, I had some conversations yesterday with Mr. Alfieri, because there was a discussion, to your point, Gene, if this application were withdrawn, and I'm not saying it is or should be, but if it were withdrawn and resubmitted, it could likely be processed under the ADU ordinance if it met all the, and just so you know, our ordinance, ADU is ordinance says that an accessory dwelling unit is a conditionally permitted use as long as you meet 5 or 6 conditions. Shauna can talk about those conditions later. And the way New Jersey law works is, if it's a conditionally permitted use and an applicant meets all the conditions, they would go to the planning board. If it's a conditionally permitted use and the applicant does not satisfy all the conditions, then they come here for a different type of D or use variance. Dante,
I think you hit it on the head.
Other thing worth mentioning, since we're on the record and we're in front of people that are in business here for the board, that I think you could say, notwithstanding what I said before about prescriptive, you certainly could make the case that for the west side of Red Bank, it's better to have an owner-occupied unit with a rental than having a two-family where both units could someday become rentals, even though that's not the current intent. So I think that's where we're going. I think even though this application is legitimate, the other things, the ADU is better for the town, in my opinion.
Okay, moving along. Any more questions for Christine? The board, any questions from the public for this witness?
Thank you.
Next.
if you could just state your name again for the record,
Robin Renault?
and you were sworn at the last meeting, correct?
Correct.
And you recognize you're still under oath.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify a couple points that were brought up and also kind of just give my opinion on this ADU two-family thing.
And just speak into the mic. Hold that
Sure.
microphone. Yeah. perfect.
Okay. Just to clarify, there is nothing proposed and no living space proposed in the basement. Just wanted to clarify that because that was mentioned. It was also mentioned that we want to preserve these multiple bedroom, single family homes, which I totally understand. But I think this property is well suited for two family versus ADU because was built in 1920. So there's 4 bedrooms, but you can't fit a modern sized bed in any of them. So at most, it would be a 2-bedroom on the second floor and living space on the first floor. That's why I kind of put my own bedroom in the attic that way. Doing that was a way of preserving the envelope of the home, the structure of the home, and keeping it as is. So I think there's, a discussion of, is preserving old homes and finding a way to get more population into them of higher value. That's not for me to decide, but that's kind of looking specifically at this property. It's not your multifamily home for the amount of money you spend in Red Bank. It's not it's not the single family home that you would expect to buy. It's very old, very outdated. The layout doesn't suit modern families as is.
Any questions for Mr. Note? The board? Any
Oh.
questions from the public?
I'm sorry, I wanted to answer Eugene's question as well. That no cons, continuous support from my neighbors. They're very nice. My family will be moving next door as well, so they like me.
Great. Thank you. Next,
Chairman, we have nothing further.
is that it?
It is.
So we have before us an application. Does anybody want to make a motion?
And Mr.
to-
Chairman, if I could just say
Oh,
one
yeah, you
thing
can.
procedurally. If there, Charlene, so this is a use variance application, so only 7 members will vote. Every board member can comment and express their opinions and state reasons, good and bad and pro and con, but only the first 7 vote. And then, Mr. Chairman, I have written down a list of potential conditions. I don't know if it's going to be a no vote. I don't need to read them, but if you want, I can read them.
Why don't you go ahead and read them before we take a vote, and then
Okay.
everybody can make their decision.
Some of the conditions would be, if this application were approved, compliance with all the promises and commitments and representations the team made throughout the public hearing process. I guess we would make sure that you were approving the revised plans, not the earlier plans. And compliance with affordable housing rules and regulations and contributions and directive, compliance with the T&M Associates Review Memorandum, both of them, obtaining any outside approvals. There's usually a 24-month time shelf life on the approval within which to get building permits, and submission of as-built survey. Dante, if the application is approved, ultimately the design representative will need to submit some type of professional certification confirming that the improvements have been installed and effectuated in accordance with the approved plans and in accordance with the testimony and the resolution. Sean, I have a note here. Was there a Shade Tree Commission memo?
No.
No. Okay. And let's see. No adverse light spillover. And let's see, we had a couple other things. No further expansion of the number of bedrooms absent further approval of the board. I think, Dante, the testimony was you're keeping the same footprint. I think we talked about basically it's dedicated parking, those 4 spaces for the 2 tenants.
Correct.
Or 2 occupants. And let's see. I have a note here, Sean. I don't know. Did I don't, maybe it was a question mark. Separate utilities or no? So we'll come back to it. Yes? Okay. And there was, I wrote compliance with the half-story ordinance, that this is not 3 stories, Jackie. And I guess it was 4 bedrooms, and if you get the approval, you're reducing the unit to 3 bedrooms. Did I write that correctly? I'm sorry, 3, yes. Again, this is not demolition. I think we talked about air conditioning in the rear in a compliant location. The existing fence to be replaced in kind. And we talked about relocating the garage. That's already been done. I have a note here about the vestibule in front with 2 separate entrances. Is that okay? Compliance with the fire rating regulations and building and construction code. The garage not to be used as habitable space. Fire regulations comply. Paul, you had indicated among other people that wanted to see garage drawings, submit the rendering. Utilities in the garage, is it just electric? Just say yes for the
Yes.
record. Okay. And we had talked about, Jackie, I wrote something about seepage pit. I can cross that off my list. Okay. And then, again, garage, no utilities except electric and tied into the upper unit. Let's see. We're getting there, Mr. Chairman. Garage not utilized as living space. We wanted turning radii, which have been submitted. We'll just have Jackie approve that if she needs. The turning plan, John, I think you wanted to see show space to maneuver so that we're not hampering on-street parking spaces. Let's see. And just a couple of things that came up tonight. No, perfect. So we'll make sure any affordable housing fees that are due and owing, excellent point. And we talked about work with the board engineer to supplement landscaping details. And we will obviously, if it's approved, advise the assessor as to any approval that is granted. So I think that's the gist. And again, that's just through my notes. Anything else they said during the hearing or that's in Jackie's memo, if they said it, it counts. So just so I know, Dante, are you okay with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. So now, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back to you.
Kevin, can I clarify one of those conditions? I thought I heard you say the footprint wouldn't change. Was that a condition?
I think that was.
Yeah.
There is no footprint.
We're not proposing to expand the footprint at all.
Yeah, I understand. One of the things I'm driving at when I'm asking is because some of the criteria given in the testimony is that the by making this transformation, the applicant just told us that we can keep the home the way it is. It has, consistent with single family stock in the area. Just the, the envelope of the home. That was the word I was looking for. And so, but when we grant, if we were to grant the D variance, then that carries with the property. And so I guess my question is, if someone were to demolish and rebuild a two-family home with a larger footprint, that wouldn't meet the condition. They would have to come before the board again.
Sorry,
Uh,
Shauna.
In our ordinance, it says that if an existing structure that is a permitted use in the zone is demolished, it has to be built compliant with the bulk requirements.
Okay.
Unless
So
they
they
were to
can-
come back here for relief.
Yeah, so they have to rebuild in order to not come back here. They have to rebuild a use that is permitted in the zone and fits the building envelope laid out in the bulk standards.
Right. So that by building within the standard, they avoid the C variance,
Yeah.
right? But to that first part of a permitted use, like
But if-
avoiding the D.
Yeah, so if this structure is demolished and it's I don't know if the setbacks are non-conforming, sorry. Then they can't build back in the same building envelope.
And
because-
to your point, I think, and we can ask the applicant if we'll agree to this, but I think the implication was and is, and I should have been clearer, that we're approving the renovation that they've talked about. If this building is demolished, all bets are off and you need to come back to the appropriate board.
That is correct. What we are presenting tonight is the application. We're not presenting a different structure or a different use. This is the application.
So
All right, thank
excellent point. And if it's approved, that will be a condition. Good,
Okay.
good point.
I just want to be a tiny bit picky because I think I read something, but I may have read it wrong. You aren't changing the footprint or the envelope of the house, agreed. But is the deck changing a bit or being larger or something? And just to make sure we don't hang you up with something like that. Do you know what I'm? Yeah.
Just speak into the microphone.
There's a deck in the back. It was
Right.
about 8x7. It's now 8x11. So it's slightly larger, but it's accounted for in the coverage.
Okay, okay.
So I'll clarify that if the application is approved, that no change to the footprint with that exception.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments before we make a vote on this from the board? Any comments from,
Comment, although I'm also happy to make a motion. I want to recognize the comments of my colleagues, Mr. Canio and Mr. Light. I think they're very interesting, but I think we have to stay focused on the application in front of us. Well, these are interesting theoreticals. We need to there's a request for the D variance and other related variances that we have to approve or deny. I personally would approve them. I think the testimony has been compelling. The bringing this house back from a state of extreme disrepair, maintaining the envelope, I love that word, Ms. Renault, is very consistent with the master plan and the direction that we want to go in Red Bank. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm ready to make a motion if there are no other comments.
I could make a comment to add to what you said, Ann. Putting on my glasses for an application for a two-family home. There are many two-family homes on the block as it is, so it does fit within the character of the block. So it's not detrimental to the neighborhood in my perspective. Also, because it maintains the look of the single-family home, and there will be neither the basement or the garage will host living space. That's also important. Also important to me that you're going to have separate gas, water, and electric meters for the two units is important. And probably most important of all of these is that you're providing plenty of parking on the site so that you won't bleed off into the neighborhood. So like Ann, I would also support this.
okay, so, okay, so would somebody like to either make a motion to approve or Oh, you didn't? You did make a motion.
I'll make the motion to
Oh.
approve the application.
Well, then I'll second.
Ann Torrey,
Yes.
Raymond Mass,
Yes.
Greg Fitzgerald,
Yes.
John Gilday,
Yes.
Vincent Light,
Yes.
Paul Cagno,
No.
Eugene Horowitz.
Yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman,
luck.
members of the board. We do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Have a good evening and stay from outside, stay inside.
Hey, that house has been in disrepair. I just hope she doesn't keep that blue color. I said that, I'll approve it as long as you change the color.
I learned about it 2 days ago when Dante called me. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, and next up, we have 240 Shrewsbury Avenue.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as the applicant's team gets situated, let's do a couple of things here. First up, we're going to swear in Jacqueline Derman, our board engineer, and Shauna Ebanks, professional planner, and our Director of Community Development. Jackie and Shauna, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Let the record reflect, both these fine individuals have been sworn. And we're going to say up front, is there anyone here who has any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? All right, don't see any. Shauna and Charlene and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it'd be my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I think, Vince, it might have been you. We had carried this a while ago, and I think because it was carried, I think you specifically asked that we require renotice. So we did, Mr. McKenna did that, and we appreciate that because transparency is better, always better. And what we're going to do is just mark into the record what we, as a board, have before us. And Ed, Mr. McKenna, while I'm doing this, I'm going to ultimately come to you, and I'm going to ask to announce who the representatives are of the company and owner, contract purchaser, all that thing, so we can just do our internal conflict check. But we're going to mark as A1 is the application package, and A2 is the disclosure of ownership, and we're going to get back to that in a minute. A3 is the Environmental Commission report dated April 18, 2025, I think, Shauna, and that was at 7:19 p.m. A4 is the Shade Tree Commission memo, and that was dated July 16th, 2026. And A5, the preliminary major site plan prepared by Two River Engineering, dated August 1st, 2024, last revised April 15th, 2025, consisting of 13 sheets. A6, boundary and topographic survey prepared by Morgan Engineering, dated September 12th, 2023. A7 is the architectural plans prepared by Edward O'Neill, and that's dated August 29th, 2024, consisting of 7 sheets. A8 is the affordable housing plan prepared by Edward O'Neill, and that's dated August 29th, 2024, 3 sheets. A9 is the stormwater management report prepared by Two River Engineering, dated August 1st, 2024. A10 is the traffic impact analysis prepared by Two River Engineering, dated October 1st, 2024. A11 is the letter of denial prepared by Shauna Ebanks, dated September 11th, 2024. A12 is the intent to proceed, dated October 24th, 2024. A13 is the project narrative. A14 is Mr. Garrido's Two River Engineering response to the T&M review letter dated July 25th, 2025. And Jackie, I'm going to mark as A15, the T&M Associates Review Memorandum. Is the right one September 26, 2025? Okay. Yep. Shade tree comment, thank you. Oh, you know what? I marked that as A4, I think. So we got that. And so we got them both, I think. All right. And then, Mr. McKenna, if after you introduce your, make your appearance, my disclosure of ownership says Incredible Oz LLC, Mary Ellen Santopadre and Ernest de Santopadre. If you could just, after you enter your appearance, identify those so we can just do an internal conflict. And Mr. Chairman, so as you all know, but members of the public, we want to know that we just want to further ensure transparency and make sure if we hear the name Incredible Oz LLC, that might not ring a bell as to any conflict or a question about conflict. But if we hear Joe Smith, Joanne Smith, we might disclose. So good evening, Mr. McKenna, and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Eddie, microphone.
You think I know by now. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Kennedy actually identified correctly. They're here this evening. It's Mary Ellen and Ernesto is also known as Gil because it's a much easier name to pronounce. They're the two owners of the LLC.
And is the applicant the owner of the property, or is there a?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, hearing those names, any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts about conflicts, potential conflicts? Don't see any. Oh, say the name again.
Yes,
Santa Padre.
Santa Padre, correct.
Okay, very good. I think we're good to go.
Okay. Good evening. I think the board is somewhat familiar with the application, but it's for 14 apartments on property on Shrewsbury Avenue. I've asked Mr. O'Neill to give a very in-depth description of not only the project, but in addition to that, to testify as to the variances that are deemed necessary. And at the conclusion, we would also like to discuss with the board, in the event that the board may be inclined to grant the application, there's two things you should know. Number one, this property is actually located in an opportunity zone, which is a zone that's is created nationally and for the purpose of encouraging investment in particular areas. And this property happens to be located in an opportunity zone. In addition to that, I think there was one other thing I wanted. We did make an attempt to acquire additional property next door. Unfortunately, the owner of the property sold it for his own reasons to someone that he knew, and we were unable to acquire the additional property. But in addition to that, I know the board in several instances has asked us to reduce the number of parking spaces and add more green space to an application. We've had several like that at the planning board also. So if that is an issue that the board would like to bring up later on during our testimony, please let us know and we'd be happy to engage in that conversation, because we meet the parking requirement, but in many instances, including statewide in New Jersey, there's a significant movement to reducing the number of parking spaces based upon the assumption that we need fewer cars nowadays than we did in the past. And the proximity for this particular property to mass transit is also a consideration. So if the board is interested at some point in discussing that issue and asking us to reduce the number of parking spaces in exchange for granting more open space, we would be happy to engage in that conversation. And on that note, I'd like to call Mr. O'Neill as our first witness.
All right, good evening, Mr. O'Neill. If you could just state your name and business address for the record.
Edward William O'Neill Jr., 65 Monmouth Street, Red Bank.
And do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
And just for the record, you're testifying tonight in your capacity as a licensed?
Architect and a licensed planner.
Thank you. And for the record, your certifications, qualifications, and licenses are current, up to date, and in good standing?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you've been before us a number of times, so.
Yes.
We'll accept it.
Yes. Thank you. Shauna, could I bother you to put sheet 100 up on the screen?
And just so I know, is this something that's already been submitted to the board, or I need to mark it?
Yes. No, it's already been submitted.
Got it.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to bounce around a bit here, but what you're looking at is a schematic site plan of the project. So as Mr. McKenna said, there are the proposals for 14 two-bedroom unit, multifamily units, apartment units. They're grouped in 5 structures, but the structures are linked. So it is one building, based on the building code. So that, there is, what's kind of unique about it is it's based on being located around a central courtyard. So
I'm sorry, say it again.
it's based on being located around a central courtyard, which is this here. So this is outdoor space. So the 5 units, well, there's 5 units on the ground and then 4 units up, surround this space. And that is the space for the tenants. The idea of the courtyard is to create an environmentally sensitive apartment building, if you will, because we're taking various aspects of passive solar and environmental theory into consideration here. So for instance, each unit has at least 3 walls with an exterior face, which means you can glaze window 3 walls, which means you can do cross ventilation throughout the entire unit, which would reduce the amount of air conditioning required in the unit. Obviously, a day like today is kind of extreme, but in most instances that won't be necessary. The same thing goes for natural lighting in the building, which will reduce the cost of electricity for lighting, because again, there'll be so much natural light. So that's the theory upon which the architecture is based. The roof of all of the units would be flat with a parapet, and the reason for that would be to mount solar collectors on the roof. So it's not a green roof, but it is a green roof in the ordinance is something that's grass to reduce runoff. It's a green roof because it will produce enough solar power, we think, to cover the common areas of the complex. So again, we're reducing the amount of electricity pulled in from the site. Let's see. We have 28 parking spaces, surface parking spaces, which is the ordinance's requirement and the RESIS maximum requirement. As Jackie pointed out in an earlier meeting, the RESIS standard is now the number of spaces maximum as opposed to minimum, and maximum allows us some, I'll call it argument, as to why the number of parking spaces should or could be reduced. We are not showing that here. We wanted to show that, yes, we can accommodate all of the 28 parking spaces with the 14 units. The parking lot is accessed from Shrewsbury Avenue, which is a county road. Now, currently, there are 2 curb cuts on Shrewsbury Avenue. So by sealing one, we also produce 2 more on-street parking spaces for the neighborhood and the areas around it. Now, if we go to, can we go to sheet C209? Keep going.
Well, before you go off that page.
There you go, that one. Yeah.
It looks like there were 2 ADA spaces.
Yes.
Are there any EV spaces there?
Yes, there will be, although that plan doesn't show it.
Okay.
Because it was a later, there will be 4 EV spaces.
Great.
One of them will be one of the barrier-free spaces.
Thank you.
But we did not, at this point, take advantage of the credits allowed by providing the EV spaces. Those are other things to discuss about reducing the amount of parking in trading off to open space. So these are conceptual sketches. So the image on the left is an analysis of the site from an architectural standpoint. When you look at the site now, again, there was a single building, which was the Coates Funeral Home. And that was there as long as I can remember. I'm looking at you. Yeah, I mean, 40, 50 years. And that building, which is here, is one that's there now abandoned. Next to it, to the south, is an existing 2-family house the wall of that building is right on the property line. And I know because I did a structural renovation of that building a lifetime ago, and there are no windows on it. So it is a two-story blank wall that's about 90 feet long here. This is the rear of that property. These two residences are on the neighboring street. There's a single-family residence here. What is not shown is right here is a very large, looks almost like a three-car garage. This building is a commercial building, which is on River Street. And then this is the property my client attempted to purchase. It's been purchased by somebody else. And I believe they're doing work to maintain it as a residence, but I don't have any, it just turned over, so I'm not sure. But I believe it's still going to be residential from what Mr. McKenna told me. So that leaves us with the idea of having a building, access, and parking. And that's the kind of the conceptually the way it was done. Can you go to the next board, Shauna, please? So that's where we get this general layout. We looked at these adjacencies, which we could talk about more in a bit. I kind of modeled this after the River Street Commons. So I looked at the landscaping there, how they did it. I thought they did a wonderful job when they did it. The building was there, and we thought to do a similar thing here. And I'll show you a photo of the River Street Commons some point later. We would add fencing in these locations where the parking lot gets close to the property line. And then if you slide over, Shauna, to my right, you can see the idea is that this is the courtyard, and in section, you have units, and the air pours out through the units, through the courtyard, and the sun drops in. And, you know, Shrewsbury Avenue is considered to be one of the busiest roads in the county by lane of traffic. And so by having this courtyard, you've actually created a protected outdoor space for the residences. And that was the theory. That's the theory of why it's open. I mean, it could be, we could obviously close it up, do all sorts of things, but I don't think it would really serve the residents in the best light. So if you, again, if we look at the accommodations, we have the parking, we have the courtyard, we have access. We also have each unit is about 952 square feet, which is slightly smaller than the minimum. But we think that they are nicer units and they're well designed. I think they're just by taking the circulation out of the building, because with the circulations on the outside, in outside walkways, we can make the buildings more efficient. So if you go to
Was it 950 or I thought I read 872?
maybe you're right. 830.
Yeah, and required is
Sorry.
1,000, but you're proposing 872 square feet, is that right?
Yes. I'm just trying to get to the, ask Shauna to go to the right sheet. Too many sheets. There it is, C104. There they are. Oop, one more back. That's it. Great. So there are two units. So you can see there's two bedrooms, living room, kitchen, dining area, bathrooms and utilities. So if you look at these, the reason why they're efficient is there's very, very little circulation, which, you know, I can have my professor from architectural school screaming at my ear about circulation, wasted space. These I think are really efficient. We've done one of them, one unit has the small protrusion in the middle, the other has it on the end, and the selection of which unit goes where is based on the site. Some units have more of a corner orientation, some have more of a straightforward orientation, And it also allows us to break the building up and the mass up in the manner in which we have. So Sean, if you go to, I believe it's almost, it's not quite the last, it's the second to last image. Yeah, which is going to be the same as the, what we have, poster there. Keep going. There. So what we've tried, I'm sorry, what we tried to do here is break the mass of the building down into components that kind of blend in with, it's not really the reality of Shrewsbury Avenue, but I think the idea of the brick creates a solid mass to the building, a sense of permanence. And then this is a fiber cement siding, which are used to break things up. So when something cantilevers out, it changes. And then this is the entry to the courtyard, which is the private entry to their private space within the building. And then this would be the landscaping similar to River Street Commons. So that's architecturally a description of the development.
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neill. Why did you say you decided on 872 versus 1,000 square foot habitable?
Well,
I didn't
because
catch
we
it.
could make the building smaller. In footprint.
You'd have
Okay.
less units if you made them 1,000 square feet.
Well, I think if you add the difference up to all the units, it wouldn't add to another unit. So we tried to be as economical as possible, both for the clients and from a budgeting standpoint, and also, from an efficiency standpoint. We just didn't feel 1,000 feet was really necessary. We probably could, by cantilevering more things, make it 1,000, but it didn't seem to really.
I mean, other than the ordinance. You didn't think
Yeah.
it was necessary other than the ordinance.
Well, yeah, but in some respects, as if you know about the history of development, these ordinances were all standardized in the 50s. And an apartment in the 50s, when the ordinances were written, is not reflective of what the market is 75 years later. I mean, if you look at the footprints of units that are new in the town and they're 2 bedrooms, a lot of them aren't 1,000 square feet. So that was the rationale. The rationale was, again, trying to be economical about it.
Mr. O'Neill, you also testifying as a planner or just the architect?
Yes, but I haven't talked about
Okay.
that yet. But so if you wouldn't mind holding that till, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, so all the units are exactly the same size, including the affordable housing ones?
Yes, except for the only thing different is the layout
Okay.
of whether the living room is in the middle or on one end. And some of them flip.
Just to add about the site, I live on the block outside the 200 feet next to the proposed building. When they talked about the lot they wanted to acquire, and people have tried to do that, project with both lots was turned down here some time ago.
Yeah.
That building looks like it's undergone rehab to make it a rental again. It used to 2 families and the son living in the basement. And they're gone, but they're boarded it up and they brought it, looks like they're staging for a renovation of the neighboring. It's a good sized house for the west side. It's on the southwest corner of Shrewsbury and River. You look at.
Yeah,
Tino's and
in
goes
this
back.
rendering, it would be on the right of it.
Yeah, and next to it was commercial, was Artie's office for many years.
Yes.
And it's now being used resi, I think as a 2-family, or that's the intent of the use. Is that true? Is it being used resi now? I know they were.
Excuse me. It was purchased by a professional musician. And he has established a sound studio, or is in the process of creating a sound studio there. He travels quite extensively. He's been with major
Yeah.
bands, to include Springsteen's band, Bon
Interesting.
Jovi's band, etc. He also has a podcast, and he travels quite
The
extensively during the
existing
year.
use allows the sound studio, yeah.
Yeah, you won't
Understood.
see him there that often,
Too bad.
He's a great guy, but
He's a musician. He fits right into Monmouth County.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
This picture up here just doesn't look like 5 separate buildings.
Well, they're not separate. That's the trick. The trick is, this is a separate apartment, that's a separate apartment. This is a separate apartment, that's a separate apartment, that's a separate apartment. And this is a stair tower, that's a stair tower. If you go to the other side of the building, there's the elevator tower. And then there's 2 gaps that are tenant decks in between. So they are all open on 3 sides.
So from the white car, that's the entrance to the courtyard.
Yes, right.
And there's apartments above it.
Yes.
But in the schematic, it looked like there was nothing there.
Well, that's because it was the first floor plan, so you
I
wouldn't
see.
show the bottom,
Oh, the first floor plan, right?
right?
Duh.
If I showed you the second floor
Yeah,
plan, which is in
understood.
the package with,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
it's very creative.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be this, you'll see,
Right.
you'd see the 5th unit.
It's very creative, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's 14, it's 5, 5, 5, 4.
Yeah.
And what are the dimensions of the courtyard?
It is approximately 50 by 26, 27.
Thank you.
And it's it's a non-conforming use now? It's a pre-existing non-conforming use? Is that what the property is now?
As a funeral home, yes.
No, right now I thought this was currently I'm talking about the subject property.
Oh, yes.
Well,
Well, we would,
non-conforming two-fam? It's what?
no, that's the property next door.
I'm sorry, that was the property next
property
door.
next.
That is, yeah, and I know that's what it was before.
Mhm.
I can't tell you for sure, but I think it's being developed as a residential property.
In your testimony, you said there's a flat roof and there were 2 parapets. And what, in this rendering, are we looking at the parapets or the elevator tower?
The power pits would be above this right here.
Okay.
And behind that would be the solar collectors. This doesn't have a power pit, and neither does the elevator tower. Elevators have to have an overrun. So they're
Okay.
always taller than the building they serve.
And for the purposes of this variance, what are we considering to be the height of the building? I mean, yeah.
I know we fit within the height, I believe.
I think the site plan shows 35 feet and 3 stories, but some of the architectural elevations were saying it's 33 feet and a 2.5-foot parapet, and there's a 9-foot elevator tower. So I was just trying to get a read on which one of those.
The drawing I have is so tiny. Can you go to sheet C200? There it is. I think the other one had a story going on. Here. Yeah. The desire was not to have. Oh, right, it's 42 to the top of the stairs in the elevator tower, which are allowed. You see the- sorry, thank you. It's 35 to the roof, then the stair towers and the elevator can exceed the height because that's how you get onto the roof.
So Sean, under our ordinance, the height is 35 feet? or Jackie? Come back to it.
Yeah. If you could
Yes, it
come
is
to that.
35. can
And I am just
confirm it.
confirming, we've talked about this before, but the appurtenances above the roof you don't count that as part of the structure when you're measuring the height, but I'm just double checking all of that. If you give me a second.
So it should be 35 feet to the roof surface, which is conforming to the zone. So the building's height is similar to many of the three-story buildings on Shrewsbury Avenue, which I'll show you photos of in a bit.
So the elevator tower can be 15 feet above the building, up to 15 feet.
Which it won't be. It won't be that much higher.
I know Shauna has her opinions on that now, but that's the elevator height.
And I'm sorry, if you can just clarify that for me. I thought I read in the TM letter that 2.5 was permitted stories, but you're proposing 3 stories. Is that not?
Well, there's a contradiction that has been battled back before this board numerous times. In the old section, it says 2.5 stories. Then in a later amendment to this zone, it said that you could have a commercial unit and 2 stories of apartments, which would be a 3-story building. This goes all the way back to the Asha Pharmacy building across from Parker House, which is on the next block north. And this board ruled at that time that it was a 3-story, with 3 stories were allowed. And so if you want me to jump to that image, I can show you how many of the projects have been approved as 3-story without variance.
Well, I guess I just want clarity that he's seeking a variance because 2.5 stories is
Correct.
permitted and he's proposing 3 stories.
Correct.
Okay.
That's on page 3 of our letter.
Right. And then I guess the distinction from what you're talking about, Mr. O'Neill, would be that it was commercial space on the other unit and you're in this zone, although commercial is favored on the first floor, right? That's why the ordinance says no residential apartments on the first floor, right? Only from second floor and up.
Right.
That's typically for allowing a commercial space, right? Which would allow then for maybe perhaps the 3 stories that you're referring to.
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree. Again, precedent has been set numerous times in properties within the same zone to have 3-story buildings with residences on the second and third floor.
Mr. O'Neill, I just have a question about the facade facing Shrewsbury Avenue, the ground floor.
Yes.
What does that look like? Because that's the one that's more facing the pedestrian level.
If
How
you
is that
could-
going to be treated?
If you could go to, let's see, you're at,
And then also for the elevator tower, as Jackie was alluding to. I know we did this for at the planning board. There was another application, I believe, Jackie, where the we had asked that the elevator tower be painted a color or, well, I guess it's kind of hard to do that because the elevator tower is out more than in, but to kind of be able to mask itself with with the sky, with the, I guess the sky, so that it doesn't look so atrocious.
well, if you go back to C200,
Oh, yeah. I think there was another one.
no, 2 more back.
There you go. 200.
That's,
200.
yeah, that's 200. So that is the north elevation. So on the north elevation, this is the elevator. So the elevator is treated in the same siding as the stairs. So there's three, if you want to call them towers, that are above the roof line of the units. So that, and you're looking at this straight on, which you'd never see given its orientation on site. This would never be seen like this, but it is an elevation.
Is there a way to not make it looks? I guess to not have it so maybe it's the siding material that just makes it look very flat and blank.
Okay, what we
If
tried
we
to
can
do-
add some type of like a cornice or something at the top to just make it
Sure, we could
not look
definitely.
like that, being that it is on Shrewsbury Avenue
Mhm.
and
Well, I just want to,
more to thought to
sure.
the
It is,
building.
it is indented.
Yeah.
So this is indented 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah, I
So
get that, but it
the
doesn't
shadow
really,
lines
it
will
wouldn't really
break it
reflect
down.
well though with just this, the look of it. Being that the board siding is, it's smaller.
Mhm.
Maybe if it was a bigger,
Sure,
siding material.
yeah, we could definitely look
It'll
at
have
different-
more identity to it than, these smaller, panels, maybe.
Sure, we could take that into
And, but
consideration.
just also to add some type of an architectural feature to like a cornice or,
Mhm.
I don't know, some type of a design to the top to make it.
Yeah, we
look
had it
more-
as brick at one point. We thought that that stood out.
Why did you change it? Like two different tone bricks?
Yeah, we thought, we just thought this was going to be less visually prominent. But we could go back and show the board, the brick, and, you know, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
We certainly could address that.
I had a
If-
question, actually. I'm
Yeah.
just noticing this. So it looks like there's 3 elevators, but there isn't. There's only
No,
one.
these
What
are the
is
stairs.
two?
These are the staircases, which are on the other side of the building.
Which one is the elevator?
This one.
Does that have parking or the street right up to it? Like on the plot, can someone drive up a car up to it to get to the elevator entrance easily? Or is it on the part of the building that has no?
No, it's in, based on where you would walk into the courtyard,
Mhm.
it's in the back.
So you have to go through the courtyard to get to the elevator?
Yes.
That's not ideal.
Well, there's a theory about that.
Oh,
And the theory is that, honestly, is the sustainable design theory is that people should walk more. And so a lot of apartment buildings now have the elevator as far away as possible from the front door. No, I agree in that, but it was somewhat conscious. Could you go to the next slide?
Mr. O'Neill,
Because
just
I
before
didn't
you
talk-
move to
I
the
didn't
next slide,
Talk about the Shrewsbury Avenue.
I just wanted to ask, can you just address like the need, what is causing the variance for a 30% increase in lot coverage?
The parking.
Parking?
No question.
So if you were to have pursuant to our zoning, where there's no apartments on the first floor, could you not create the parking underneath? If you started the apartments on the second floor, had apartments on second and third, and had the parking underneath the building, would you not need such a large parking area and the 30% increase in lot coverage variance? Basically, my feeling is it's a little too dense. And I think that, you're asking for a lot of variances, lot coverage at 30%. The units are on the first, second, and third floor. You got 14 units when only 4 are allowed, right? And the master plan says they want the density by the train station, not really on, encroaching into a single-family area on Shrewsbury Avenue.
Well,
So-
I think if you allow me to present my planning testimony,
Okay.
I think some of those questions and rationales will be explained.
Okay.
I'd rather not piecemeal it if you don't mind. So there was a question about the elevation on Shrewsbury Avenue. So if we could go. Nope, the other direction. to. Yeah, 202. So that's this is the Shrewsbury Avenue elevation. So we turned the side of the building so we could have more landscaping here and in front of these areas, which is what the River Street School does so well, or the old River Street School, River Street Commons, is that the density of the foliage is regulated by the windows.
So,
No, because it's an elevation and that's three-dimensional. That's the problem with going back and forth, the three-dimensional and two-dimensional. But
So in
that-
other words, Ed, that's what it's gonna look like.
This is a diagram, that's just what it's, an architectural diagram, which is what elevations are. And they're required in the presentation. So we have it.
Yeah, you don't see the opening between the buildings.
Well, because it's hidden
Right.
behind.
See, this right here is a gap. That's where the terraces are that are in the courtyard. So this is air, air, air.
Those connectors are some kind of terrace?
They're walkways with railings.
walkways, But that's open,
Yeah, so you could
Looking
throw a
at-
baseball through there.
right, okay.
A
That
question of,
makes any sense.
question of symmetry. I noticed on the first floor, on the right side, there's one window instead of two.
Here.
And on the floor plan, it looks like you moved the bathrooms, so you didn't want the window into the shower. Is there a design reason why you did that?
Yeah, because what you're trying to do is rotate the building so it moves visually. So architectural theory is that the building doesn't look static. It makes your eye revolve around it, and that breaks down the scale of the building, which is why when you see a number of buildings in a row, your eye keeps moving along them, and that's what breaks down the scale.
Okay.
Are the windows on the ground floor operable?
They would be, yes.
Sorry, Sean, are they what?
Operable? Yeah, all the windows would be operable because of the passive solar orientation of the courtyard allows all the cross ventilation to happen. If you choose not to open it, that's your business, but you would have the option. So if we go down now to the planning testimony,
May
the,
I ask a question about the
oh,
architectural
sure, of course.
testimony before we move on?
of course,
Yeah, I'd asked earlier about the building height, because you had testified that the courtyard was 50 feet by 27 feet. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then I think this is more of a question for the board's engineer, Jackie, but we have an ordinance in the that specifically speaks to courtyards in multifamily uses, and it says that there's a minimum width for the courtyard. And so my reading of it, and my amateur reading of it says that we were missing a variance for the courtyard being undersized. And so yes, it's 490-96D. And it says, I can read it because I've got it up here in my notes. Courtyards bounded on 3 or more sides by wings of the same building or by walls of separate buildings shall have a minimum court width of 2 feet for each 1 foot in height of the tallest building or building wing, and hence why the height and the courtyard being related. D, yeah. (490-96) D, multifamily dwellings, and D is specifically about courtyards. So it should be 70 then, right? And we're at 27, I believe, proposed.
I'm sorry, what was that variance, Sean, Jackie? I'm sorry, and then the number is what's required, the width? So 70,
Shauna, could you go to the next
got it.
image?
And what are they proposing?
I thought I heard 27, yeah.
Got it.
No, one more. There you go, this one. We designed the courtyard based on sun angles.
I'm sorry,
Not
based on what?
Sun angles. Not upon the ordinance. That the sun angles would create shade in the summer and sunny areas in the winter, and that the breezes would blow through. So the courtyard is designed around the passive solar idea, not around something in the ordinance which was instituted before the idea of energy saving, climate change, or anything else was part of the vocabulary. That's to the face, I believe, of the walkways. Right. And then you'd have another 6 feet on either side. Rail to rail. Right. But building to building would be, I'm sorry, you said 46 would be 58. Right. Right, and then you add 5 feet for each walkway. But it is part of the courtyard because it's all open.
It should be 70 feet wide instead of 46.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Could that be achieved by reducing the parking and spreading the building out?
Can be
making
achieved by
courtyard-
lowering the building height.
Yeah, or enlarging the courtyard and reducing the parking?
Sure. Do we really want that?
Well, it's been my observation in the new apartment buildings in Red Bank that the whole parking is never utilized, even at Station Place, which is a flat wall building, which is what Ed's trying to avoid with this. That's why everybody's articulating these buildings because of the deep love for the Station Place facade. But the parking there isn't fully used. The parking at the rail isn't fully used. You're finding this all over the city of New York. This is happening a lot. But I think it's way too much parking, and that's a way to make the courtyard bigger. But Ed's argument for the sun also is obviously very important too.
But I don't think that goes away if the courtyard were bigger. I mean, I'm looking at this
Yeah.
picture here and it looks like it's mostly parking and then there's
Yeah.
some living space in a
But
courtyard.
you explained why that was done. You wanted to show you could achieve the number
Right.
if you had to.
Exactly. I could
You know.
achieve the
Right.
environmental
It would be
issues
much
without
nicer
making
building
it
if it was
to the
different.
ordinance, which was never about environmental issues.
It'd be much nicer with benches or something for the owners or whatever.
So if I may move on to the planning,
Move on.
is that all right? Okay. So we obviously require a D variance.
Oh,
Ask questions of the
questions
architect
on
or
the
the
architect?
public?
Okay.
Oh,
any
I'm sorry.
questions on the architect from the public? Okay. None from the board? All right, go on to your,
Something, windows.
Yes.
Can we have the window divides instead of the look of how it looks now where it's just one single pane? Can we change it to the window divides? Just because if you're trying to make it look more residential, and fit in with somewhat of the houses that are along Shrewsbury Avenue, they do have the window divides, like, so is it possible to have that?
Of course,
Not make it look so hard.
of course it's possible, no
Yeah.
question. It's just, it's a choice of a window.
Mhm.
I understand your point. The other point is that if you're looking to create large views, why
Mhm.
would you put something in front of it? That's the other side of the coin.
Right.
So, no, we could definitely entertain that. That's not an issue.
So before we leave. Excuse me. Before we leave that issue, I thought you brought up a good point before about the different colored brick.
Yes,
So I
can
think
we look
we'll-
into
we
that?
can discuss that also.
Absolutely.
And just for those towers, just to add some type of a architectural feature with it.
I got
instead of
that, too.
leaving it so blank.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah, I was actually trying to do the opposite. So, trying to make it as nondescript as possible. So it didn't stand out. But I understand your point. We could definitely examine that. So the D variance? Okay. Okay, so no, I'm sorry. No, I know that, but I wanted to go forward. It was a matter of proceeding. So the D variance is required due to the proposed increase in density of the residential units and the proposed elimination of the ground floor commercial use. However, I just want to point out that the proposed FAR is less than half of what's allowed. So we keep talking about how big things are, but it could be much bigger. Much bigger. I think that the site, to prove my case about the D variance, is that the site is particularly suited to the use. We're large enough to accommodate the project. We meet the parking requirements. We add 2 on-street parking spaces in addition to that. We haven't asked for any of the bonuses that are allowed based on the EV spaces. We haven't tried to apply other parking regulations that the state stands by when you're within a half inch of a transit center, which we are.
Part about the transit center?
There's a half a mile distance between us and the train, and that means that in certain engineering standards, instead of having 2 spaces per unit, you do it by the number of bedrooms.
Right.
And if we did that, we would reduce the number of spaces required from 28 to 21. But we're not asking for that. We're just laying it out there because we comply. So, let's see. We meet the setbacks of the building on the south and west ends. The north setback is short, but again, it's to a blank wall. The north boundary contains both an office building and a 2-family residence, and we're trying to provide as much screening and fencing as possible. The building height meets the ordinance requirement, and we talked about the contradiction in the ordinance. There are numerous multifamily housing developments within close proximity to the project, the largest being the 62-unit River Street Commons building to the northeast, which is literally in sight of this property. It's 1 property catty corner away. There are numerous neighborhood commercial and service buildings within short walking distance, which is all part of that NB neighborhood business zone. Like if you're going to have neighborhood businesses, you need to have a neighborhood.
Yeah, but the NB zone is specifically designed for apartments above the commercial. You haven't done that here.
Yes, you're absolutely right. However, if you allow me to look at the land uses around it, you'll notice that there are no commercial uses of that type when you get past River Street. So I'll continue. We're replacing a non-residential use with residential uses, which is specifically allowed in the zone. The lot coverage is exceeded, but the courtyard amenities provide private areas shielded from busy Shrewsbury Avenue. We talked about Shrewsbury Avenue's intensity. I want to also then point to something that's the last slide. Can you go to the last, very last slide? It's a lot of yellow, you'll see. I think there's one more. Well, two more. Okay. So this is something that I looked at and I was pretty amazed by. That the property is technically 3 lots. And if you look at each of those lots individually, they could be developed with a commercial use and 4 units of housing with no variance. Now, if you
They
multiply,
could be developed as what?
they could be developed as a commercial building with 4 units of housing above them without a variance. That would be an allowed use in the NB zone. So you could have 12 units on the site, side by side, with commercial underneath, and you'd be in compliance as a use, as a density and as a use. So what we're proposing is 14 units of housing without the commercial component, which reduces the amount of parking necessary, and I think creates a better streetscape and a better connection to the neighborhood. But we could do that because there are 3 lots. And there is no minimum lot size in the NB zone.
And if I could just ask a legal question, I'm not trying to get you or anything like that, but are they definitely 3 lots or have they functionally merged or anything like that? They've not.
No, and I checked with Mr. McKenna on this.
We checked. There are 3 separately identified lots that get 3 tax bills. They are considered to be separate lots.
Now, if you could go up one slide, Shauna. Okay, this is a small area analysis around the site. So our site is in green. And you can see that there's an X through a building. There used to be an accessory building here. That's gone since we started the project. The elements that are yellow are single-family houses. The elements that are brown are multifamily developments. And as you can see, there's multifamily all around it, down River Street. And then the red are commercial uses, some with residential above them, some not. So to say that we would be the only one to have a residence on the first floor of a multifamily unit is just not true.
Are you able to identify which of those multifamily units has a first floor commercial use?
The ones that are red. So if you go toward the top, those 3.
Okay.
But the one below it doesn't. The 4 that are to the left of it, my left, don't. The River Street School doesn't. The property that's next to us doesn't. The 2 properties to the south of the site don't. And the one across the street from that last one doesn't either. So, you know, it's a funny thing. I mean, when you're on Shrewsbury Avenue, it does change significantly at River Street. The pattern of development changes.
Well, are those all non-conforming uses then?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, but they've been there for a long, long time.
Right.
They are not recent developments. So then if you talk about appropriateness to site, that's what I am suggesting, that this is appropriate. And if
I guess I'm just not following how it's appropriate to compare the site to a non-conforming site.
No, I disagree. In planning theory, the idea is to find out whether the standards set by the borough reflect the reality of the living situation. And it's my contention that the ordinance hasn't changed significantly in 75 years.
You know, if I could just ask, is this in our package or do we need to mark this?
I'm sorry.
It's not.
I'm sorry, Ken. Oh, it's not? I thought it was. I apologize. I apologize. I thought it was.
All right, so what are we up to?
Um,
You know what? So this will be A16. And if you could just later on distribute 15 copies to, so what is A16?
A16 is a land use.
4 copies, 4 copies. I was gonna make it, all right, so, right, A16 is, what is this?
Land use analysis,
Land use analysis prepared by,
my office.
okay, and is there a date on it? And if not, we can just make it today's date.
There is, but I
3/4/25, got it.
And then if you reduce it and scroll up. Sorry. Well, I wanted to go to some photographs that I think are before it. Nope, other direction. Keep going. There we go. 1, keep going, please. Yeah, I think there you go. Okay, so I thought these were in the package too, or
So you'll give,
these are part of the land use analysis. These are images.
so we're gonna mark this A17. This is, photographs of,
Neighboring land uses. And there's
you-
3 of them. So if you want it, 17, 18, 19,
and, taken by,
myself.
all right, roughly when?
But it has it on the side. I think the same date as the land use diagram.
All right, March 4th, 2025. So you can say that they are accurate depictions of what existed back in March of 2025.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. So what you're looking at the top is River Street, the old River Street School building, and you can see it's 3 stories tall, goes all the way to the ground. It's the entire block. I might point out that that is a building that radically changed the neighborhood. And I would say, as a planner, it saved the neighborhood when that thing was approved. Having lived there before it was done. I live 3 blocks away. So that renovation was critical in the development of the west side of Red Bank.
Of the school, you mean?
Yeah.
For the over 55, yeah.
Yeah.
Very peaceful place.
Yeah.
The lower right-hand corner drawing, that house is the one that's now boarded up and was vacated and hopefully is going to go become multifamily again.
Right. And then the subject property is in the middle.
Yeah.
And then to the left is the 2-family house next to the property with the solid
And
masonry.
I'd like to make a comment about the use of retail on the ground floor. If you look at the lower left photograph of the red brick, next to it is a building where the gentleman came in to ask to convert an office space some attorneys vacated when they moved to Broad Street and had it converted to an apartment. And the board we let him, you can just see the yellow there, we let him make a commercial space into an apartment, which has been done. And given the fact that it's very hard to find tenants for Shrewsbury of any quality, it's one reason we variance the liquor store, and let them in. Expansion across the street, and there's a lot of vacant space. But retail doesn't support new construction in that location, as witnessed from 2 buildings up the road that people have tried to renovate with ground floor retail, and it's very difficult. And I would say that residential on the ground floor is much preferred because we need it badly and we don't need the retail right now.
I think that's in contrast to what the master plan is telling us about this zone, though. It calls out this zone specifically as saying we should, and I take your point that the ordinances are very old, but the master plan is very new and it guides new ordinances. And it says that those new ordinances should, I'm going to quote it now, maintain the mixed use nature of this zone, parenthetically ground floor commercial with upper story apartments. And so, yeah, I think you positioned the lack of commercial as a benefit to this plan on the basis that it would have less parking requirements, but it does seem counter to what the master plan is saying for this zone.
Well, if we look at the next slide down, or you. were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to speak to that. I personally had an application before this board before, and the gentleman that owned the property had an office space that he had on the market for, I think it was 7 or 8 years, that he could not rent it. So we made an application to the board here to convert the first floor commercial space to residential space. And he had a lease signed before he even started work on the renovation from commercial to residential. I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything such as that. The only reason I bring it up is what this gentleman just said is true. There are certain parts of Shrewsbury Avenue that you just can't get retail to go there. And this other gentleman, after waiting all those years, he actually retained us and asked us to make an application on his behalf. And he testified that he had it on the market for all that time and could not get a commercial tenant.
If I. The liquor store building.
Wait, which one was that? Mr. McKenna, what are you talking
The old
about?
gas station that became, the liquor stores moving
You're
across
not
the
talking
street.
about Greens.
No, this was
Another one like
it
that.
was an office. It was an office, and
Might have been a law for some reason.
pardon me.
I
It's
remember
shown in those, it's shown in the photos. It was shown in the photos, just the edge of that building, yeah. It's right next to the brick building in the photos, yeah. Yeah, the master plan is a good wish and a dream, but it's completely unfeasible right now on Shrewsbury Avenue retail environment. Which is too bad.
That space was also 370 square feet, so it was a very small.
Smaller the better for offices. The thing
was a
that's
very
happening in Red Bank
It
is
was a very
Regis,
small.
is
Yes.
shared office space, small office spaces is what's happening today in America, and it's certainly happening in Red Bank all over. Witness Regis going into the EBS building on Broad Street. Small is better than large in office,
Maybe for an office, but not necessarily for commercial.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the master plan is 3 years old. And for whatever reason, I don't know why we would give up on it. But it was a deliberate document, right? And it says that this is the zone that they're trying to, we can tell war stories about a 400 square foot space, office space that didn't rent and we converted it. But I mean, we just did this master plan and I don't see the reason why we want a dense structure like this. No commercial. It's only going to make the area, quite frankly, less attractive to people to come to Shrewsbury Avenue if they want to shop or they want to do something. If we're going to develop it, why don't we develop it according to what the master plan says? I mean, we just did this.
But,
We
but
just
you,
approved
you,
this
you
master
you
plan.
talked about density. It's not. It's half the density allowed.
You're
By it-
putting
based on
40 units
FAR.
and you could put 12, right?
No. Based on FAR, density is FAR.
Well.
So you made
number
the
of-
comment of density. I want to be on the record by saying it's far less dense than permitted.
Then perhaps density wasn't the right word. But you're seeking a variance because you're missing the commercial. You want to develop this lot, you're missing the commercial and you're putting more residential, you're putting all residential units and no commercial where, right? I mean,
Right, but here's the conundrum. As soon as you put the commercial in, the parking requirement skyrockets.
okay, that's a conundrum for you. I mean, plan around it. That's what you all do.
But again, remember that it's a neighborhood commercial zone, and one of the requirements in the neighborhood commercial zone is a maximum commercial space, because they don't want large parking lots and large big box type stores. So you have a conundrum, yes, but you also have the idea that it's a neighborhood business district. It's not general commercial district, it's specifically neighborhood. And in order to populate those commercial facilities, you need more neighborhood. And so we're arguing that when you go down Shrewsbury Avenue and you cross south of the River Street School, that the commercial stops. And there's a reason for that. It's stretched too thin. So my position as a planner is that allowing this many units, which is far less than the FAR allows is an appropriate use for this property. And I'm not arguing anything but the appropriateness of the property.
And if I might refresh the recollection of some people that were here before, there was another applicant that came with a project for this property with commercial on the first floor and 3 floors of residential. He withdrew his application.
There was also an application that was approved on the corner of James Parker Boulevard and Shrewsbury Avenue, right? That, in my opinion, would have been lovely. That had commercial space and had, I think, 4 units. I don't know if you represented the applicant prior to Thrive. That got approved. You remember that?
I'm
So,
sorry,
you
I
know,
don't,
it
I
can be
don't know
done.
which property you're speaking of. but-
Where Thrive is on James Parker
Oh, yeah.
Boulevard, right? There was an approval there. There were apartments and there was a commercial space and there was this, could have put a market there. That was approved. It got abandoned and now we've got 30 or 40 or so units going there with 8 parking spots. But it can be done, right? It's just.
Yeah, no, let me remind you, that was never
presented that
built.
way.
It was never built, and they got gentlemen who owned the property, who I subsequently had some business with, said he could never make a dime there. It was never built. With all due respect, I hear what you're saying, but he ended up selling the property to the people that are building Thrive. And he told, I know the gentleman, I spoke to him, and I represented him on an application for commercial and residential at the train station. That we got approved. When he got the approval for the corner of James Parker Boulevard and Shrewsbury Avenue, he couldn't get any commercial tenant to occupy it. He ended up cutting the deal with Thrive and then sold the property to Thrive. Fact.
Yeah, in fact,
I'm not-
Mr.
and again,
McKenna,
I'm
it
not trying to be
wasn't built.
arguing.
I imagine it's hard to get a tenant on a project that hasn't broken ground yet, so I'm not terribly surprised. So I'm not sure how much weight that necessarily carries. He was going to build a couple commercial spots with some apartments above it. The fact that he decided to sell it to Thrive, I guess I'm not following you. How is that persuasive?
Maybe you're not following me, because what I'm saying is, and please understand, I know the gentleman, I represented him on another project before this board that was approved. He told me I can't get a commercial tenant, period.
Let me just add, I think what's very important in these decisions is reality and
Yeah.
feasibility and economics.
Right.
There's an enormous amount of money trying to come into Monmouth County and develop property. And it's very, very hard to find deals, very hard to find anything for sale. And everything's very expensive and very valuable today. And it just doesn't make sense to build the kind of buildings that will have that use. And this is a much better building than 3 inline apartment buildings with stores on the ground floor. Much better. And whatever the master plan says is great, but just spend a little time on Shrewsbury Avenue. We don't need any more retail space, which is the same argument that the downtown landlords made about Station Place, asking Station Place to reduce the retail, which I didn't agree with, but they were saying there's plenty of retail space in Red Bank. Don't make people add more retail space when the market's like this. But Shrewsbury is the worst. And this is I think the building could be different, better, but it's a much better building than the as of right use, in my opinion. And I live on the block.
Let's get back to your finish up your testimony as a planner.
Yes, thank you. If we look at the images above, we can see the buildings that are adjacent to the site. So the building on the lower left is the office building.
Hey, I'm sorry, is this been marked or no? Is this new?
You just did.
Okay, that's same one?
Yeah, it's just been up there for a while. Because you marked 3 in a row, Kevin? 17, 18, 19? I think.
Yeah, I thought, I thought there were 3 in pictures.
This is one of the 3.
Oh, okay, got it.
So the image on the left is the office building that's adjacent to the northwest corner. The site, looking across the site, which you can see is flat and featureless. To the upper part is another multifamily building that's across River Street on the corner. There are more of them in the back. There's like kind of a dark gray building. That's the pharmacy, which has 2 stories of units over it. If you go to the next one, the next image. And then these are the pharmacy building, the building that is next to Juanito's Grocery, 2 buildings on Herbert Street are all 3 stories with apartments above. And then Parker Family Health Center, that's a 3-story building also. It had a 3-story addition put on the side to better serve the community and the neighborhood. So all these buildings are there and some of them new, but it's creating a kind of an interesting cohesive neighborhood business district. But again, I think it needs people because the street is just too intense to have what would consider to be drop-off people and that sort of thing, which is why the county is going through this extensive study to hopefully sometimes build a traffic calming along the street. And by eliminating the one curb cut, we are positively contributing to that. Because there'll be less interruptions.
The great neighborhood amenity, Tino's Grocery there.
Yeah.
Cheaper chicken cold cuts than the supermarkets, fresher. Next to it is an apartment building that the gentleman built, the owner of Juanito's Empire. And this is the 3rd restaurant in that space. The first one failed, the second one failed. And now Mi Lupita relocated there from the condo site on Bridge, and they seem to be doing well, I hope.
Right. And I think it's because of their reputation.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
carried customers with them, but
Yeah, but it's been a struggle, that site. It's a big restaurant site. It's got a backyard. It's been a back covered, a patio in the back that's very interesting. That's never used. Christian says he's going to use it, but it isn't used. But, Tino's Grocery is really the only popping retail there, along with B2.
Right.
The bar,
Right. And again, once you get past River, it all goes away.
And what you do when you have problems with retail is you put more people in the neighborhood.
Which is, I think, what we're kind of saying. And again, in the master plan, in the things they call it connected, balanced. In connected, you're attempting to establish a strong, cohesive downtown area that preserves the distinct character of the individual buildings and districts, which I think we're doing that by creating another building that would stand alone on its own and be part of the community. We enhance modality of the users for pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars, because we have all those facilities proposed on site. I think it is smart growth because it is infill. It's infill from the building that's gone. That's the funeral home that's no longer there. The equitable is it preserves and creates affordable housing opportunities. There's 3 affordable units here. So it does contribute to that need. And again, as we all know, we're in a housing crisis. So, and prepared to take steps to mitigate the impacts of climate change, which is the whole building's about that. The whole building's designed around passive climate change building techniques. So given the above, I don't think that the negative criteria outstrips the positive advances of the building.
So I got a question on the variances that you need. You said you meet all of the setbacks except one.
Of the building setbacks, no, we meet 2. We meet 2, and we don't meet the setback to the building to the north and the street. The street, it gets into this has always been a quandary. There's always a front yard setback and a front yard setback from the center line of the road. And if you take the front yard setback to the center line of the road, I think we're pretty close. And I modeled it on that and based on what was done at the River Street School to mitigate the distance to the road.
You're pretty close. Does that mean you need a variance or you don't?
We do need a variance if you interpret it as a setback as opposed to the center line of the road dimension.
Jacqueline?
Aside from the use variance, he needs the following C variances: buffers, Ordinance requires 15 feet wide buffer area with screening. They don't have that. They need a front yard setback. They need a side yard setback. They need a height variance because they're at 3 stories. And they have a lot coverage variance.
And the habitable floor, right? 1,000 down to 872.
That's a design waiver.
And for Mr.
The courtyard is also a design waiver. Like a lot of it, they're in the multifamily section for design standards, so they're design waive. Those are the variances, and then there's a lot of other design waivers.
But one of the arguments we haven't made is about the parking. So if you take the state standard about the half mile to the transit area and reduce the parking lot by that, and then you take the state's EV credit for the 4 units and you do the lot coverage, we're going to be close to 60%. If you do that, I don't suggest doing that, but there's an argument to be made since the RESIS standard is a maximum, not a minimum, a maximum, that if we apply those 2 other standards, we would have a significantly reduced parking area, and we would meet, I believe we could meet all of the buffer zone requirements simply by reconfiguring the parking lot.
I think always
so
hear
we
people, I
could
always
do
hear
that.
people complaining about parking, both in downtown and over on the west side. So, I don't want to build, the mic's not on? Sorry.
No, and I understand where you're coming from.
So to repeat for the record, I always hear problems about parking both on the east side and the west side of Red Bank. So if we have a design that meets the standards, I'm perfectly fine with it. And I think that's better than a design that has fewer spaces.
Well, and the argument is the standard. Because the standard is a maximum.
I'm not talking about standards. I'm talking about people's perception for parking in Red Bank. And everybody says there's not enough parking. It's too difficult to find parking spaces. So by designing to the standards, we provide more parking for Red Bank. I'm just saying.
No, I understand.
That's my perspective.
Absolutely.
And saying that, we're not going to have enough, we're not going to have cars and, people are going to do ride shares and use bicycles. But from the perspective of the residents, there's not enough parking on Shrewsbury and there's not enough parking in downtown. That's my feedback.
Mr. Light, can I bring up an example of, if you don't mind, I just want to bring this up. We were before this board before, about the liquor store. We were, requested to eliminate a number of parking spaces to the point where we have 6 parking spaces for a 3,000 square foot retail facility. So we're.
Are you saying you want to reduce the parking spaces for this application?
No, what we are saying is that if logic prevails, do we really need all 28 spaces when the trend everywhere, including,
That's not a question for this board. That's a question for the council or for the next revision of the master plan.
No, I don't believe that's true, Mr. Lay.
I would,
Because again, the RESIS standard is a maximum, which gives the applicant the ability to argue, well, whatever term you want to use. I don't mean that adversarially, but that the number of spaces in the ordinance is overzealous.
If you look at my track record voting, many times I vote for applications that do not have adequate parking. But in a case that we do have adequate parking, I say, don't mess with it. That's my perspective.
No,
There might be other issues with this application, but from a parking perspective, it meets the standards.
I would submit that if everyone should go look at the new apartment buildings in Red Bank and see if the parking is fully used, and I believe it is not. Station Place and the rail's just not used, and this is too much parking. It's the direction the world's going in. Also, there are just like with the liquor store application, there are tons of parking spaces on Shrewsbury. And while it reduce sight lines, it's very hard to get out of River onto Shrewsbury. I'm very good at it, but it's very hard. It would reduce the sight lines. It would also slow down. If you had densely parked Shrewsbury with cars up and down the whole thing, it would slow the street down. And so I think it's too much parking for the site and it's not needed. Red Bank's parking problem is perception, and it's by people who park easily in other communities like Lincroft or Shrewsbury. And it's based on a few hours a week. If you really add up the hours when parking is a challenge in Red Bank, you're talking 2 or 3 nights a week. And for 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours. Well, also Saturdays and Sundays have been great lately at the White Street lot. But people just have to try a little harder to park. But this is, I think you really need to go look at the apartment buildings, the new apartment buildings, and see if they're using that parking. And I would say they are not.
I guess that I would push back on that. I mean, I live on Wallace Street and parking is an outright disaster. So it depends on where you live. But I'm certain, I'm a little flabbergasted for us to say that there's plenty of parking in Red Bank. I mean, it's not my experience. But I certainly at certain times, yes, and certain areas.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not saying that about all of Red Bank by any stretch of the imagination. I would never say that about all of Red Bank, but I think and by the way, if you don't mind me saying this, this is part of an argument that goes to the master plan. I've spent over half my life in dealing with planning and zoning and municipal government and everything else. You have to look at the individual property. The master plan is a map that is an attempt to cover the entire borough. It doesn't work that way. Smart planning requires you to look at the actual location of the property that's involved. I'm not a professional planner, but I was on a planning board for 19 years. So I can tell you that when you're looking at a master plan, sure, it's a statement of what the overall picture, the ideal picture would be if everything in life was perfect. That's not the case. You really need to look at the location of the individual property, the surrounding properties, when you take that into consideration. So when I hear testimony about the consistency with the master plan or the inconsistency, in my mind, I always think you really have to look at the individual property. You can't use the master plan as a weapon or as your argument for you have to grant this because it's consistent with the master plan.
I guess I'm a little confused why we're talking about parking when you have plenty. That's obviously not an issue with this application. There's issues with setbacks. There's issues with other stuff that has nothing to do with parking. So I'm not sure why we're continuing to go on with parking.
Well, because in the ordinance, the way the ordinance works, the parking is the tail that wags the dog. So if you look at the piece of property and you say, well, how many parking spaces can I fit on this? You start to work backward to then how big a building can you do to be supported by the parking?
Well, if you don't think you need as much parking and you can get rid of all the other variances, well, you ought to go back and redo your plan.
Well,
I guess I'm a little confused at why we're talking about parking when that's not an issue with this application the way you're presenting it.
Unless you're talking about the buffers being.
Well, buffers are part of the problem.
Right, and they're part of the parking.
Okay, so
if you had less parking, more buffers.
Then maybe you need to go back and redo your plan and reduce the parking and see if that passes. Because I'm not sure that's going to pass with the current issues that you have. I mean, we can sit here all night and talk about parking here or there or everywhere else. Parking's not an issue. It's the other things with this application that are an issue.
The parking seems to be at the root of not just the bulk variances, but also the use, right? Because we're looking for a use variance because we're not doing commercial mixed use. And I think you had testified before that commercial mixed use doesn't work because the parking requirement goes up. And so a lot of the testimony has positioned the argument as we need to accept either adding new residents to this neighborhood or adding commercial, but you also testified that you can put in commercial and a number of units above that. So I don't know why we're framing it as mutually exclusive. We can have both, right? But if we do have both, I think what gets sacrificed is parking. Yeah.
And if you sacrifice parking, you could make the apartments 1,000 feet each and make the courtyard 70 feet wide.
So where would you like to go from here?
Should we motion for a
Well-
5-minute break?
Slowly I turn.
Yeah. No breaks?
Sure.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I had to.
Ann Torrey,
Yes, here.
Raymond Mack.
Here.
Greg Fitzgerald, John Gilday,
Here.
Vincent Light,
Here.
Paul Cagno,
Here.
Eugene Horowitz,
Here.
Chris Haven, Dorothy Cerullo.
Okay, Mr. McKenna.
Okay, so, excuse me, I'm sorry. I have a little bit of hoarseness this evening. We have had a discussion outside. And I'd like to say on behalf of the applicant and all the professionals that we greatly appreciate and really thank the board for your lively discussion and the arguments made by everybody in the room, our side, your side, board members, differing on positions. But we would like to, and Kevin, I'll send you a letter on this. I think what we're going to do is withdraw this application, not adjourn it, withdraw it, and come back with another plan that we think the board would be more receptive to. And we think we can come up with a better product if we work hard at it. And so if you're really lucky, we'll be back, but back with something different that we hope the board would have, or perhaps be more receptive to. We took into consideration the comments that everybody made. I jotted down notes, and I thank you all for your participation, your questions, your comments. But we think there may be a better alternative. So we're hoping that we can create one for you and come back and give the board something that you would think would be very fitting for this location.
Great.
All right, so Mr. McKenna, what I would respectfully suggest is pursuant to your request, we should have a motion to dismiss the application without prejudice.
That's fine.
All right, can I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I just wanted to add, you may have heard a lot of negative things about the application, but maybe you didn't hear enough of the positives. We love the idea that you're developing this property. We love I love the concept of the building, the openness, the courtyard. All those elements are wonderful. And, I think Shauna also mentioned some possible changes to the outdoor or outside materials, but there's a lot of positives to this application as well. So don't lose all of those.
Yeah, and Vince, I really appreciate that because I acknowledge what you're saying and appreciate it. And always, at least, with the people here and us as professionals, we try very hard. I mean, I probably reject 70% of the people that call me with the dumbest ideas I've ever heard in my life sometimes. But, you know, we professionals, we live in this town. There's nothing we want to do to hurt this town ever. And so when we have good comments and smart comments, we appreciate them. And when we have critical comments, we understand and appreciate everybody's opinion. But we have other ideas that we have already started coming up with in 5 minutes. So you won't see the last of us for this property. So we can assure you of that. All right? And I welcome the motion to dismiss the application.
Okay, so we had a motion to
Dismiss without
dismiss
prejudice.
without prejudice, so.
And we had a second.
Need a vote?
Antori,
Yes.
Raymond Mass.
Yes.
Greg Fitzgerald. John Gilday,
Yes.
Vincent Light,
Yes.
Paul Cagno. Eugene Horowitz,
Yes.
Chris Havens, Dorothy Cerullo.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed?